Welcome back. You're watching the American Workplace Bully 3-2. This conversation took place on March 12, 2014. To preface the situation, the big story of the day was about two sisters in foster care under their aunt's alleged abusive supervision. There were reports of torture and waterboarding, and one of the sisters died as a result. I had already written out a script that was to be presented to Lorena, but because of the delicate subject matter, I wanted to first make sure Kathy was okay with the usage of the words torture and waterboarding, as it was American Idol night. So I texted Kathy, who at the time was attending South by Southwest festivities, and Kathy also said if there were any questions I could get in contact with her. What these audio clips will prove is how Lorena is unqualified to hold her position and how vindictive she can get. Okay. What's up?
What are you doing? Is my question.
As far as...
Why are you texting Kathy with questions that I can answer for you?
Because we didn't talk about torture before.
Why don't you ask me first? Because when you leave here, and you leave early for an event or something, do you want to talk about work? Probably not. There's a reason she left early to deal, and I'm here. I can answer those questions.
Okay.
And if you have a problem with the way I am answering you,
I wish you wouldn't take offense.
Let me finish.
Okay.
Let me finish. If you disagree with anything I say, that's perfectly fine. Take it up with her tomorrow, or when she comes back on Monday. But I think it's inappropriate for you to go over my head right now and do that, because these are obvious questions I can work with you on. As I said before, I believe that story can be told without those kind of details.
Okay. But, like I said, we didn't discuss torture when our first go.
We don't need to say torture in the text.
Well, okay, but that I need to get a clarification from Kathy, because
why?
She is the one that says she doesn't want anything too harsh for American Idol. But
and you know what? That's perfectly fine. And I completely... let me finish. And I completely agree with her. But what you just did was wrong.
Okay, well, I apologize for that.
And let me tell you...
I wasn't going over your head, though.
Let me finish.
Okay.
Those questions... I haven't even seen your copy yet.
Mm-hmm.
All right?
Well, I need to get clarification.
Well, you can ask me.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a problem with the answers that I give you...
I don't have a problem with you. It's just...
No, and you know what?
That we're doing exactly what Kathy wants as far as that. I need to make sure...
And that's for me to decide, not you.
Okay, well,
I would be responsible for that. If something happened,
okay,
and we didn't do it right, that falls on my shoulders.
Okay.
Alright, like I said before, I believe that story, we can write it in a promo-friendly language without saying the word torture, waterboarding. Those kind of terms are not necessary for that tease within this audience. But it's a story that needs to be teased, because it's an interesting story. I can't blame Lorena for being upset. It was a bad move on my part. But she was seething. And we'll find out just how bad in a few minutes. Also, please take special note of Lorena proclaiming that responsibility will be falling on her shoulders. The fact that these women got kidnapped, and it's right down here, it's in our neighborhood, it's Burnett.
Yep.
That's the selling point that you can use without using the words torture and waterboarding.
How about abuse?
Well, like I said, it depends how you're wording this. You need to write the copy first before you do anything. I mean...
Okay, here's a copy. Lorena.
Yes?
Here's a copy.
What?
Here's the copy right now. So I removed the waterboarding aspect of it.
Where the first one?
Yeah.
The soundbite is that girl was my student. Why didn't I question more? A twisted year-long abduction in Burnett. Abuse. I think if you say that they were kidnapped for a year, it softens the blow, and when somebody is kidnapped for a year, you can let your brain wander and understand that it's abuse. I don't think you have to say it.
Okay. So kidnapped for a year where? So just
Where were they kidnapped?
Huh?
Where were they kidnapped to?
Well, it's considered kidnapping. The legal language is aggravated kidnapping.
No. Where were they held hostage?
Well, that's the thing, is that they were under foster care under their aunt. And so I don't know if you were really considering that being held hostage, but they're held against their will. The legal language of what they had charged them was aggravated kidnapping.
Why don't you ask News if they consider that a hostage situation or kidnapping, what's the correct language? Whenever you have a doubt with something like that, that's what News can confirm or tell you no for. So why don't you ask them what the proper term, or look at the story, her copy. See what kind of language she used in there. How did she refer to these girls?
Okay. Held against her will and abused for at least a year. Her sister died in the same home. Let's see. Okay. That's all she has.
Okay. What I suggest then, hostage is definitely a stronger language than kidnapping. I think you can listen. I think you start out with the word kidnapping, and when you present this copy to News, ask if you can use the word hostage.
Hostage is not an accurate term. Hostage means you're being held for ransom. You're held for demand. They weren't being held for demand.
Okay, then use the word kidnapping.
Okay.
That's perfectly fine, Philip. Okay. My point is that you can get your point across in a much simpler way that's not so harsh.
So you've heard it for yourself. Lorena didn't know the meaning of a fundamental word a promotion manager should already know. If Lorena had her way, it would have made the newscast look bad. Really bad. Which is why I started to suspect Lorena was a fraud. And also the reason why I later recruited a network friend to write professional copy to test Lorena if she would change professionally written copy just for the sake of change. Back to the topical, Lorena didn't improve the copy. She actually made it weaker and uninteresting. We've heard the word kidnapping so much on the news that an audience will eventually tune it out. Sadly, important stories like these become run-of-the-mill news. And no, the viewer's imagination won't automatically go to abuse when they hear the word kidnapping. Because there are many different types of kidnapping: parental abduction, stranger danger, or adult kidnapping, to name a few. What will catch an audience's attention are bizarre or exotic words that are generally understood by the population, which is why I added the words torture and waterboarding. While I agree with Kathy's assertion about not making topicals too harsh for the American Idol audience, I believed removing torture and keeping waterboarding or abuse would have made this promotion far more compelling and not as offensive. And because you don't normally hear these words, you're now hooked and have to stick around for the newscast to see the details of the story. So I did the rewrites Lorena wanted and took the revised copy to her. What you'll hear is how Lorena was still holding a grudge from earlier and what her solution was. Came to you at 4. And
finished copy. Want to finish copy at 4:30.
Okay, well, we were going over a lot of stuff at 4.
Then maybe we need to go over that earlier and then look at finished copy by 4:30.
Okay, going by Kathy's words on April 10th, 2014.
So Lorena's 4:30 deadline is not expecting you to be in with a fully written perfect script.
Which means Lorena made an arbitrary rule change without Kathy's knowledge, and apparently over a personal issue. You've also heard how I came to Lorena at 4 p.m. with copy, not to mention the long-winded lecture she gave me. Despite it being her own fault for taking up earmarked copywriting time just so she could lecture me, Lorena would not take any responsibility when just an hour before she said it would fall on her shoulders. 5:15 is my deadline, though.
For what?
For copy.
I'm telling you, we need a copy at 4:30 because if there's amends that we have to do, like right now, you're not making your deadline at 5:15 because we're still having to rewrite. So if we're starting
at 5, deadline is at 5:15.
No, if we're gonna review. Your deadline to have a complete piece of copy is maybe at 5:15. But this is not complete.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. So let's back time a little bit and start at 4:30 so that you meet your 5:15 deadline, because it's past 5:15 right now.
Despite what Lorena said, her email response on April 10, 2014 shows she didn't keep to that policy. Lorena even justified her order by saying it remains the deadline, and that 4:30 was rather late. I'm sure Lorena will try to split hairs, claiming she meant the initial review, but you've already heard her say...
Finished copy. Want to see finished copy at 4:30.
Okay, remember from all the way back to the first video of how GM Mike said it was a fact that people were fearful of me. And do you remember how plant seeds is in Lorena's vocabulary? The audio you're about to listen to from April 22nd, 2014 is what I couldn't figure out until it came to fruition. I knew Lorena was up to something, but at the time I didn't know exactly what.
So what do you want to do as far as this text treatment, though? Because they're going to need an answer pretty soon.
Right. So I actually was looking for the email that I sent you about the tag, because I know I've written it all down. I just... let me just start from scratch again, and go through your tag. So your scripts are in RFS, all your scripts here?
Yeah.
These are all the fine, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a Fox 7 box kite weather logo, where it says Fox 7 and the weather underneath.
Okay, that's all you want, right?
No.
No?
No.
What do you want?
Excellent. I'm sorry. Can you step back just a bit? This, we need the, and we also need the AccuWeather on there. Let's see maybe if you have it in your RFS.
You've just heard how cordial I was to Lorena, and I was just leaning in to see what Lorena was drawing. And this pattern continued to happen. This is from April 28th, 2014.
Because this weather and temperature is going to change. And it's going to soon get 110, you know? And for it to say 85, 63 even, it's going to feel dated.
Would you like me to have a weather mock-up one?
What does that mean?
Mock up one of those, or have actually the hub just put 110 on it?
Well, it's not 110 right now.
Well, you just said.
But eventually, no, what I'm saying, I'm sorry, can you... eventually the weather's going to change. So because the weather changes over time, this is eventually going to become inaccurate. It's not as troublesome because it's a little blurry.
In actuality, this happened a total of 4 times, and every time I respectfully took a step back. But how do I know it was Lorena who fraudulently made those fearful claims? I don't. What I can tell you is the claim came at a very convenient time, which happened just 1 business day after I had turned in 100 pages of documented evidence on Lorena's proclivity for blame shifting. These claims were instrumental in my suspension when GM Mike presented the accusation and Lorena just so happened to be conveniently absent taking a sick day. So in addition to all of the Fox 7 management improprieties listed, I'm also of the opinion management is guilty of sexism, falsely believing a man is inherently violent, and that a manager is incapable of hiding behind her gender, especially a manager who is projecting a sweet and innocent facade in front of others while saying horrible things behind closed doors. We've seen this behavior before in history, only back then they had the common decency of calling this a witch hunt. Sorry, Lorena, you can't be the bully and the victim. Lesson number 429 in management. It is always easier to get rid of the solution and keep the problems. And that's it for 3-2. Take a break and please continue on with the American Workplace Bully 3-3, where the evidence will prove Lorena a manipulating troublemaker and more of why I believe she's a fraud. Thank you for watching.